All right, let's get into it. Today we're going on a hunt for something that's huge, totally invisible, and flowing right under our feet every single day. This is the story of the digital detectives, the people who are tracking down a phantom drain that haunts our city's water systems.
You know, it's a pretty crazy thought. A massive amount of the clean, treated water that we pump into our cities never actually makes it to a tap or a shower or a paying customer. It just disappears. So the big question is, where is it all going? Well, to find out, we first have to give our culprit a name.
And here it is, non-revenue water, or NRW for short. That's the official term for all that lost water. And we're not just talking about a little drip here or there. No, this is a huge gap between all the water a utility sends out and the water it actually gets paid for.
But NRW isn't just one single thing. As you can see in this great chart from the International Water Association, it's really broken down into two main types of losses. First, you've got your real losses, and that's exactly what it sounds like. Physical leaks from pipes, joints, and tanks. But then you have apparent losses, which is a bit trickier. We're talking about things like meters that aren't reading correctly, data entry errors, or even water theft. So we're hunting for both actual, physical leaks and kinda accounting ghosts.
That really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, a city's water network is this sprawling, buried labyrinth. You can't just walk the beat and look for trouble. You need a modern strategy, a digital-first approach. And the very first step is to break down the crime scene into manageable chunks.
So, how do you do that? Well, the whole idea is to turn that massive labyrinth into a map you can actually work with. You start by mapping out a digital grid. And the key to this whole thing is something called a district metered area, or a DMA. Now, think of it like this. Instead of trying to police the entire city all at once, detectives divide it up into smaller, more manageable precincts. That's what a DMA is. It's a section of the network that's been hydraulically sealed off. Every single drop of water going in is measured. And that's a total game changer.
And this is why DMAs are just so powerful. Once you isolate these little sections of the network, you can suddenly monitor for leaks with incredible focus. You can manage pressure more effectively, which we'll talk more about later. You can find problems way faster and even keep a better eye on water quality. It basically takes this overwhelming citywide problem and turns it into a series of smaller, solvable puzzles.
Okay, so the grid is all mapped out. Our detectives have their precincts. Now they need their first big clue. And to get it, they have to wait for the city to go quiet and just listen very, very carefully.
And this right here is the core principle. See, while most of us are asleep, legitimate water use, people taking showers, flushing toilets, it drops to almost nothing. But a leak? A leak runs 24/7. It never, ever sleeps. And that is our opening. That's our chance.
This brings us to probably the single most important piece of evidence in this whole investigation. The minimum night flow, or MNF. It's simply the lowest rate of water flowing into a DMA, which usually happens in the dead of night, say between 2 and 4 in the morning. Now, once you subtract the tiny bit of legitimate overnight use, from hospitals or factories, what's left over is almost entirely leakage. It's like the network's secret telltale heartbeat.
Okay, take a look at this. This is what a leak looks like when it's captured as data. You see that graph? Even when water consumption should be near zero, there's this constant, steady flow of water. That flat, elevated baseline right there, that's the smoking gun. It is the sound of water escaping, and we've caught it on the chart.
Right. So now our digital detectives have all this data pouring in from all their DMAs. They know who's leaking. The next step, though, isn't to rush out everywhere at once. No, it's to prioritize. It's to focus on the biggest problems first. So, using that minimum night flow data, they can actually rank each DMA, just like you see in this chart. It's pretty clear that DMA 7 has a major problem, while DMA 12, on the other hand, is in pretty good shape. And what this does is it allows the utility to focus all its resources, its time, its money, its people, where they're going to have the biggest impact. It turns this citywide headache into a prioritized hit list.
But just looking at the flow of water isn't the whole story. As the Water Research Commission points out here, pressure is a critical accomplice in all of this. I mean, think of pressure as the force that's actively pushing water out of any existing cracks or breaks. So the higher the pressure, the more water you're going to lose from the exact same hole.
And that leads us to this crucial point. Managing pressure is one of the single most effective things you can do to reduce water loss. High pressure doesn't just make existing leaks worse, it actually stresses the pipes and creates new breaks. So by actively managing and lowering that pressure, especially at night when nobody needs it, you can slash leakage rates, reduce the number of new bursts, and even make the pipes themselves last longer. It's a win-win-win.
Okay, so we've mapped the grid, we've analyzed the night flows, and we've prioritized our hotspots. Now it's time to go from data on a screen to boots on the ground. It's time to deploy the field team.
And these are not your grandfather's old wrenches. I mean, the modern Water Detectives toolkit is seriously high-tech. They're using things like these portable ultrasonic flow meters. These amazing devices can literally clamp onto the outside of a pipe and measure the water flowing through it, all without having to shut anything down. They are absolutely essential for validating the data you're seeing and pinpointing problems out in the real world.
And this brings us to a really key operational decision. The data that's coming in can point to very different kinds of problems. The question becomes, do you have a widespread issue across an entire DMA, the whole precinct, or is it just a single large user that's causing a red flag, a single suspect? An effective team needs a clear, structured playbook for exactly how to respond.
And here is that playbook. This is exactly how a structured, efficient NRW team operates. So if they see a DMA imbalance, meaning the whole precinct's numbers look off, their first step is to dive deep into all the baseline leakage and pressure data. The next step is to get out there and physically check the DMA's boundaries and make sure the main meters are accurate. But if they get a high consumption flag on one specific account, the workflow is totally different. First, they cross-reference it with billing data. If it still looks fishy, that's when they deploy those mobile ultrasonic testers to validate that specific meter right on site. It's targeted, it's efficient, and it works.
So, what does this all add up to? Let's take a step back, recap the investigation, and see how our digital detectives actually solved the case of the phantom drain.
It's really a beautiful and logical process when you lay it all out. First, you map the grid by creating those district-metered areas. Second, you find your crucial clue by analyzing the minimum night flow. Third, you identify your main suspects by prioritizing the DMAs with the highest leakage and pressure. And finally, you deploy the tech, those mobile testers, to validate and pinpoint the exact problem right there on the ground.
And that, right there, is the real magic of this entire system. It's designed to funnel this massive, complex, citywide problem all the way down to a single, actionable point. You can go from analyzing data across an entire metropolis to finding one specific, faulty joint on a single service line and getting it fixed. That is how you hunt a phantom.
So we've pretty much proven that with the right data and the right strategy, we can be incredibly good at finding and fixing leaks. But, it leaves us with a much bigger, much more important question for the future. As we continue to build and rebuild our cities, can we design and maintain water networks that are so resilient, so smart, that they stop this invisible river from ever forming in the first place? Well, that's the next great challenge.